The blizzard came without warning. One moment, the forest was quiet. The next, the world disappeared beneath walls of white. The mountains had seen many winters, but this storm was different. It moved like a living thing, swallowing light, swallowing sound, swallowing hope. In a small village nestled at the forest's edge, families huddled by their fires. Mothers pulled their children close. Fathers barred the doors against the wind, but one door stood open. A small child stumbled through the snow, crying out for her father. Her voice was swallowed by the wind. Her coat, too thin. Her hands, already numb. Her name was Emma. She was 7 years old, and she had made a terrible mistake. It had started that morning. Emma's father was a woodcutter. Every day, he walked into the forest before dawn. Every evening, he returned with wood for the village. Emma loved to watch him work. She loved the sound of the axe, the smell of pine, the way her father's strong hands turned logs into firewood. That morning, she had begged to go with him. "Not today, little one," he'd said, kissing her forehead. "The weather is changing. Stay home with your mother." But Emma was curious, stubborn. When her mother wasn't looking, she slipped out the door. She followed her father's footprints into the forest. She only meant to catch up to him, to surprise him. She didn't notice when the snow began to fall. She didn't notice when his footprints disappeared. She didn't notice until it was too late. Emma ran through the trees, calling for him. "Papa, Papa, where are you?" But the forest gave no answer. The wind picked up. The snow fell faster. The trees became shadows, then ghosts, then nothing at all. She tried to find her way back. Every direction looked the same. Every path led nowhere. Her small boots sank deeper with each step. Her legs burned. Her lungs ached from the cold air. She stumbled over a hidden root and fell hard into the snow. For a moment, she just lay there, breathing, crying. She tried to stand, but her body wouldn't obey. The cold was inside her now, in her fingers, in her toes, in her chest. She crawled toward a fallen tree and pressed herself against it, trying to escape the wind. "Papa," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But no one heard. High on the northern ridge, a shadow moved. A lone wolf stood against the storm, his silver coat blending with the snow. His eyes, amber and sharp, watched the valley below. He was not young. Scars marked his shoulders and flanks. Memories of battles fought, of winters survived. He had walked these mountains for years. Alone, always alone. Once, he had run with a pack. He remembered the warmth of it, the shared hunts, the howls that echoed through the valleys. But that life was gone. His pack had fallen to hunters, to hunger, to time. He was the last, and he had learned that survival meant solitude. It meant trusting no one, needing no one. The mountains were his territory now. He knew every ridge, every ravine, every frozen stream. He knew where the deer bedded down in storms. He knew where rabbits hid beneath the snow. He knew the forest better than any creature alive, and he knew the child would not survive the night. The wolf had seen her from a distance. He'd been hunting when he noticed movement below, a small figure stumbling through the drifts. At first, he thought it was prey, a young deer, separated from its mother. But the scent was wrong. Human. He'd learned to avoid humans. They brought guns. They brought traps. They brought death. Every instinct told him to turn away, to leave her to the storm. But something made him pause. Perhaps it was the way she moved, clumsy, desperate, dying. Perhaps it was the sound of her voice, thin and fragile against the roar of the wind. Or perhaps it was something deeper, something he couldn't name. He followed her from a distance, watching. Emma collapsed near a frozen stream. Her legs simply gave out. She fell forward into the snow, too weak to catch herself. She lay there, breathing in short, shaking gasps. Everything hurt. Her hands were stiff. Her feet felt like stone. She tried to push herself up, but her arms trembled and failed. So she curled into herself instead, burying her face in her arms. The wind howled around her. The snow piled against her back. She thought of her mother. She thought of the fire in their small cabin. She thought of her father's laugh. She whispered his name again, "Papa," but the word barely made it past her lips. The cold was winning. She could feel herself slipping away, feel the darkness pulling at the edges of her mind. She was so tired, so very, very tired. Maybe, she thought, if she just closed her eyes for a moment. The wolf descended the ridge slowly. He moved through the trees like smoke, his paws silent on the snow. He stopped 20 paces from the child and watched. She wasn't moving anymore. Her breathing was shallow, her small body already half buried by the storm. He could leave. He should leave. Survival in winter meant conserving strength, meant staying hidden, meant choosing your battles. He had no reason to help her, no connection, no debt. She was nothing to him. But still, he hesitated. He thought of his own pack, of the pups he'd once helped raise, of the howls that used to fill these mountains. He thought of what it meant to be alone, and he thought of how easily life could end in a place like this. The wolf took a step forward, then another. He had made his choice. The wolf approached slowly, testing the air. He circled the child once, twice. She didn't move, didn't flinch. She didn't even seem to know he was there. Up close, she looked impossibly small, impossibly fragile. Her coat was torn. Her boots were soaked through. Her lips had turned blue. The wolf lowered himself carefully beside her. He positioned his body between her and the wind, creating a wall of fur and warmth. She stirred slightly, a small, unconscious movement. Her hand reached out, fingers finding his thick winter coat. She clutched the fur without waking. The wolf went still. He could feel her heartbeat against his side, fast and weak, like a bird's. He adjusted his position, curling around her more tightly. His breath created small clouds in the frozen air. And he stayed. The storm raged through the night. The wind screamed through the trees. Snow fell in sheets, covering everything in white. But the wolf didn't move. He kept his body wrapped around the child, sharing his heat. His thick coat repelled the wind. His mask blocked the worst of the cold. Time passed strangely in the storm. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. The wolf's muscles ached from holding still. His legs cramped. His joints protested against the cold. But he endured. Once, the girl whimpered in her sleep. A small, frightened sound. The wolf shifted slightly, pulling her closer. She quieted. He watched the forest around them. Watched for predators. Watched for danger. His amber eyes never closed. This was his nature. To protect. To guard. Even if the one he guarded would never know his name. As the night deepened, the wolf's mind drifted. He remembered his first winter, how his mother had curled around him just like this, keeping him warm when the cold tried to claim him. He remembered learning to hunt, his father teaching him to read the wind, to move without sound. He remembered the feeling of the pack around him, the safety of it, the belonging. And he remembered the day he lost them. The hunters had come in the spring, with their guns and their dogs and their hate. He'd been out scouting when he heard the shots. By the time he returned, it was over. His family, his pack, gone. He'd howled for 3 days and 3 nights. But no one answered, so he'd learned to survive alone. He'd learned that caring for others only brought pain. He'd learned to keep moving, to trust nothing, to need nothing. But tonight, he'd broken his own rules. And somehow it felt right. Slowly, impossibly slowly, the storm began to weaken. The wind died from a scream to a whisper. The snow thinned. The darkness softened. Dawn was coming. The wolf lifted his head, testing the air. In the distance, through the trees, he heard something. Voices. Emma, Emma, where are you? Keep looking. She has to be here somewhere. Emma, the search party. The wolf's ears flicked forward. He counted at least 6 men, maybe more. They were moving through the forest in a line, calling out, searching. The girl's father led them. Even from a distance, the wolf could hear the desperation in his voice. The wolf looked down at the child. She was breathing more steadily now. The color had returned slightly to her cheeks. She would survive. His work was done. The wolf carefully extracted himself from around the girl. She murmured something in her sleep, reaching for the warmth that was leaving. He paused, watching her for a long moment. Then he stepped back into the shadows. Emma's eyes fluttered open. She was confused at first. Where was she? Why was she so cold? Then she remembered. The storm, getting lost, the terrible cold. But she'd been warm, hadn't she? She looked around, disoriented. The forest was quiet now, peaceful. The snow had stopped falling, and she was alive. How? She noticed something in the snow beside her. A depression where something large had been lying, and leading away from it. Paw prints. Large ones. Wolf tracks. Emma stared at them, not understanding. Emma. Her father's voice shattered the silence. Emma. Oh God, Emma. The men burst through the trees, her father in the lead. He fell to his knees beside her, pulling her into his arms with a sob. You're alive. You're alive. Thank God, you're alive. Emma buried her face in his chest, crying. I'm sorry, Papa. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to be with you. Shoo. It's okay. You're safe now. You're safe. The other men gathered around, their faces showing relief. How did she survive? One of them asked. In this storm, in this cold. Another man knelt down, examining the snow. Look at this. He pointed to the depression. The paw prints. A wolf was here. A big one, by the size of these tracks. Emma's father tensed. A wolf. It was lying right beside her. See, the snow's all packed down. The men exchanged glances. Some reached for their rifles. Could still be close. Could be dangerous. But Emma's father looked at the tracks. At his daughter. At the way she'd been curled in the exact spot where the wolf had been. No, he said quietly. I don't think it meant any harm. He looked into the forest, into the shadows between the trees. I think it saved her life. The wolf watched from the ridge above. He saw the men gather around the girl, saw her father lift her in his arms, saw them wrap her in blankets. She would be all right now. She would grow up, have a life, have a family of her own someday. And she would always wonder about the warmth she felt that night, always wonder what kept her alive in the storm. One of the men pointed up toward the ridge, toward where the wolf stood. There, I see it. The wolf didn't run. Not yet. He held the man's gaze for a moment. A silent understanding passed between them. Then he turned away. Don't shoot, Emma's father said. Let it go. The wolf climbed higher into the mountains, his work done. The village talked about it for years afterward. The little girl who survived a blizzard. The wolf who appeared from nowhere and vanished like smoke. Some said it was a miracle. Some said it was a spirit of the forest. Some said it was just luck. But Emma knew. She never forgot that night. Never forgot the feeling of warmth in the coldest darkness. Never forgot the steady heartbeat she felt against her back. As she grew older, she would sometimes walk to the edge of the forest and look toward the mountains. She never saw the wolf again, but sometimes, on quiet winter nights, she would hear a howl in the distance. And she would smile. The wolf returned to his solitary life. He hunted alone. He slept alone. He walked the mountains alone. But something had changed inside him. The loneliness felt different now, lighter somehow. He'd been alone for so long. He'd forgotten what it felt like to protect something, to care for something. That night in the storm had reminded him. He was more than just a survivor, more than just a hunter. He was a guardian, a protector, and maybe, just maybe, that meant something. The mountains stretched endlessly before him, cold, beautiful, unforgiving. But he knew them, and they knew him. He was the shadow in the trees, the whisper in the wind, the silent protector of the forgotten places. No one would know his name. No one would sing his story. But somewhere, a little girl was alive because of him. And that was enough. High on the ridge, under a sky full of stars, the lone wolf stopped. He looked back one last time toward the valley, toward the warm lights of the village below. Then he lifted his head and howled. The sound echoed through the mountains. Ancient, powerful, free. It was not a howl of loneliness. It was a howl of purpose. And somewhere in the village, a little girl heard it and smiled in her sleep. The wolf turned toward the wilderness and walked on. Because some acts need no witness. Some kindness needs no voice. Some heroes are never named. The strongest hearts are often the quietest. The greatest love asks for nothing in return. And sometimes, the most powerful thing one soul can do for another is simply to stay.